Hello, Idora Alfie here, and welcome to my video about Path of Exile 2's itemization and crafting. So this video will basically go through three different parts. Like, we have the anatomy of an item here, then we have crafting mechanics and endgame crafting mechanics. I made these cheat sheets like kind of for this video, but I'll be uploading them on like Blue Sky, Twitter, Reddit, and also like in the description of this video as well. So go check it out yourself if you are interested. Okay, anyway, this video is meant to be an introduction to crafting, and it's not going to go through all the options of how to craft items, or like exactly how to like craft certain items and things. It's just going to introduce you guys to like what an item is, how you would go around like modifying it, and things like that, right? So if you want like more details, hopefully you can like use this video to like help you like search for more information, right? Like give you a basis on of understanding, right? And if anything I said in this video is incorrect, please correct me in the comments so I can like pin it and have that information for everyone, right? And also, like, if something in the diagram is incorrect, let me know and I'll fix the diagram and re-upload it, right? Okay, anyway, let's get into it. So, first of all, the anatomy of an item, right? Items in Path of Exile come in 4 rarities. The main 3 are normal, magic, and rare. And in addition to this, we also have unique items, which are their own like thing, right? We don't really craft unique items usually, so I'm not gonna like have them listed here. And we're gonna be talking about these 3 main types. The main thing you need to know about these types are normal items have 0 mods or modifiers. Magic items have 1 to 2 mods, and rare items have 3 to 6 mods, right? The thing you see here, like that's in blue text, isn't a modifier. That's an enchantment. We'll get into that in a little bit too. The next thing is mods. So like I said, rare items can have 3 to 6 mods, which is what we see over here with 6 mods. And these can be like 3 prefixes and 3 suffixes. They used to be called affixes in Path of Exile 1, and prefixes are basically like in items, in like older like RPG games, you have like a word in front of like the name of the item, right? That's what a prefix is, and suffix is after the item. Like you might have like, for example, like defenders, bombard crossbow, off life or something, right? So the defenders would be prefix and off life would be suffix, right? That's just an example of like what those words mean. And if you press Alt, you can actually see like what each one of these is, right? Like if it's a prefix, if it's a suffix, what tier it is, and all that information. So like it says, press Alt to inspect. These modifiers can be added or removed by crafting with these items, right? So I'll go through all these items later as well, but I love the design because like you can kind of tell what they're used for by just looking at them once you like actually learn about them, right? Like the blue things interact with magic items, the gold things interact with rare items, and the white one is to like remove modifiers, right? But that's the mods and stuff like that. The next we have enchantments or implicits. In Path of Exile 1, they used to be called implicits, so if you hear someone like calling them implicits, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about enchantments. And these can't typically be crafted like the mods in number 2, right? And they are typically things like stuff that's like inherent to that item, right? So for example, on a wand we might have a spell, for example, grant skill level 7 power siphon. Or sometimes you'll have like something like this in this like light bluish text, I guess, right? And this is usually an enchantment that you can get from like corrupting an item, right? We'll go into this a bit later when we talk about corruption. But these are typically not able to be like added or removed with your typical crafting methods, right? So just keep that in mind. So even if you like modify an item, they will not usually change. The next thing we have is quality. So the way quality works is you can use certain items to add quality to different types of items, right? Like martial weapons, caster weapons, armor, and also rings and amulets. But like the thing with quality is that like depending on the type of item that you are trying to add quality to, you need a different item to add quality with. First of all, for example, here we have the blacksmith's whetstone, which you can use to add quality to martial weapons, and by adding quality, it increases the physical damage of that weapon, right? So this plus 9% is already added to the physical damage that's displayed over here. You can get the items to add quality from like monster drops and stuff, and you can also get them from salvaging. What salvaging is if you have an item with quality that you don't need, you can salvage it to get basically shards of blacksmith's whetstones, right? So you won't get like a full blacksmith's whetstone from one item, but you'll get like fragments of it, right? And you can add those fragments together to make a blacksmith's whetstone. So if you like find quality items on the ground, you can pick them up and salvage them. Armor works very similarly to martial weapons, where adding quality increases your armor, evasion rating, and energy shield. In this item we have over here, it only has evasion rating, but if it had like more than one type of defense, it would increase like all of them, right? And you add quality with armor or scraps, and it works exactly the same as blacksmith's whetstones. Next we have caster weapons, which is what we have over here. Caster weapons also have quality, which is added with its own like quality modifier item, right? Arcanist's etchers. However, we're not entirely sure what this quality does. If you guys know what this does, let me know and I will add it to the document. But as far as I know, like they haven't actually revealed what it does. I think I've like scrubbed through a bunch of like footage and stuff, right? The skills, it does grant skills, so I'm wondering if like the quality here like modifies the skill in some way. Like, does it increase the level of the skill, or does it like increase the quality of the skill gem? I'm not entirely sure, right? That's like my speculation there. But yeah, if you guys know, let me know, or if you have any opinions on what you think it is yourself, feel free to comment it down below too. The next thing is rings and amulets, right? So basically, catalysts, which you can get from Breach, which is an endgame mechanic, right? It can be used to add quality to rings and amulets. And each one of like these catalysts has a certain type of modifier that they affect, right? For example, the flesh catalyst over here, it affects life modifiers. So on this example over here, we can see that it has like plus 50% quality. And this is increasing the maximum life modifier over here and increasing it to like silly values over here, right? Usually rings and amulets can only have 20% quality just like everything else. However, breach rings are special. They usually have this line over here that says maximum quality is 50%, which makes breach rings very powerful, right? And breach rings, you can also get them from breach alongside the catalysts. So they're probably going to be some of the most like powerful endgame rings, I'm assuming. Okay, the next bit is sockets. So in Path of Exile 1, we had sockets for skill gems, right? In Path of Exile 2, skill gems no longer go in sockets, but they still have retained sockets for a different purpose. This is a lot like closer to what we have in Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, right? With the gems, I think is what they're called, that you can put into the sockets, which gives you like a modifier depending on what type of armor or like weapon it is, right? So for example, you can add the sockets with Artificer's Orbs, and the sockets can be anything like, for example, with a Glacial Rune, you can have cold resistance if you put it in armor like shown here, right? Or you can put it in a martial weapon and add like flat cold damage. I'm not sure if like you can put, if you have sockets on like caster weapons, because this kind of indicates that it's only for martial weapons and armor, right? So we'll have to see about that. In addition to that, like items can only have a certain number of sockets. So armor can have, like body armor can have 2 sockets, two-handed weapons can have 2 sockets too, and all the other types of armor can only have 1 socket, and one-handed weapons are 1 socket as well, right? Rings, belts, and amulets, as far as I know, don't have sockets. So yeah, everything else I think can have 1 socket each, basically. In addition to the runes that you can put into sockets, right, you can also put soul cores into sockets, and these have a different selection of buffs than runes. So they kind of work exactly the same as runes do, but they have a different selection of buffs, right? And you can get these from the Trial of the Chaos God, which is the ascendancy / endgame mechanic thing. Also, once you put something into a socket, you can't remove it anymore, right? Like it says here for the soul core, but it also says the same thing for the glacial rune here, right? Place into an empty socket on equipment items, 1 socket, it cannot be removed. Which also means I don't think you can use them to override other like runes, right? So if you put a rune in, that socket is filled and you can't like change that anymore, is what I'm getting from this. But there might be like some mechanic that lets you like change this in the future, so I'm not entirely sure, but like for now, all we know is that they're permanent, right? Okay, so the next bit is the crafting mechanics. So there's this chart which might look a bit like daunting, right? But we'll go through the step by step. It's basically the progression of going from like a normal item and crafting it to have like 6 mods, which is the most you can have on a rare item, right? And it basically goes through the different types of crafting items we have. So let's say you find a normal item that has like some like stats that you like the damage on it, you like the attack speed, you like the modifier it has, like the enchantment, I guess is what they call it. Like for example, this like gives your grenade skills. Let's say grenade skills like fire an additional projectile, right? And maybe like right now you have like a crossbow that doesn't do this. It has like something that buffs like regular crossbow attacks maybe, and you want to play more with grenades. You want to craft this item to be useful, right? So after you pick up this item, you can use a transmutation orb to add 1 mod to the item, right? So by adding 1 mod, it also makes the item from a normal item to a magic item, right? So it'll basically get an extra modifier over here. And you can add an additional mod while it's still magic using an augmentation orb. So augmentation orbs add 1 mod to a magic item, right? So you can go from having like 1 modifier to having 2 modifiers, right? And let's say you didn't like the modifiers you got, you can use an annulment orb, which removes a modifier, right? So you can go from like having 2 mods and randomly remove 1 to 1 mod, right? Maybe you added 2, you like the second one but you don't like the first one, you can try and remove the first one that you got. But that's what annulment orbs are for. I'm not sure like how rare annulment orbs are, so it might not be the best idea to use it at this step, but you can use annulment orbs on both magic and rare items. I'm not sure if it changes the rarity of the item, and this matters because certain crafting items say that they only work on certain rarities of items, right? Like augmentation orbs only work on magic items, transmutation orbs only work on normal items, right? So for example, if you removed like the one mod from a one mod magic item, right, it will go down to 0 mods, but I'm not sure if it will actually like go to being a normal item, or if it'll still be like a magic item with 0 mods, right? In Path of Exile 1, I think it would have become a magic item with 0 mods, which means you can't use transmutation orbs on them anymore. You can only use augmentation orbs, right? But I'm not entirely sure how it works in Path of Exile 2. If I find out, I will update this text over here as well. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. The next thing you can do after you get a 2 mod magic item is you can change it into a rare item with a Regal Orb. So a Regal Orb adds a 3rd modifier, right? And makes it into a rare item like so. I'm not sure if you can use a Regal item on a 1 mod magic item. I think in Path of Exile 2 you in Path of Exile 1 you can. And there's nothing that suggests that you can't in Path of Exile 2 as well. Because the Regal Orb like says you can use it on a magic item to add 1 modifier, changing it into a rare, right? So you might be able to go from like a 1 mod magic to a 2 mod rare maybe? Perhaps? I'm not sure. In their demo they didn't actually show like this path, so I'm unsure about this. If you guys have any info or any speculations, drop them in the comments too. After you get like a rare item, you can use Exalted Orbs to add more modifiers, and you can go all the way up to 6 modifiers, right? You can also obviously remove modifiers using Annulment Orbs, and you can like remove modifier and add a modifier with Exalted Orbs if you want to. You also have Alchemy Orbs, which can be used to add 4 mods to a normal item, right? So it basically like skips a bunch of steps and takes you to like a 4 mod rare. So this is pretty like useful if you just find something you want to try and get some random mods on, right? But if you're trying to like go back and forth, it's probably not the best item. But like, yeah, we're not sure like how rare each one of these currency items are, so we're gonna have to see. You can get, I think it's like transmutation orbs you can get by salvaging magic items, and by salvaging rare items you can get regal orb shards basically. So you can get both of those from like just like scrapping random items you find on the ground, I think is how it works. But yeah. In addition to that, you also have Chaos Orbs. You can only use Chaos Orbs on rare items, and it basically allows you to modify one of the mods, right? You can remove one mod randomly and randomly add another mod. So let's say you don't like some of the mods on this. If you use a Chaos Orb on it, it'll randomly pick one, it'll remove it, and it'll randomly add another mod that this item could have, right? So it basically does the work of like an Annulment Orb and an Exalted Orb all in one item, basically. In addition to that, you have Val Orbs. So Val Orbs are a bit more complicated. They can do one of many things, right? But it'll definitely corrupt an item. So if you have an item that's corrupted, it can't be corrupted any further. So I think I had a picture of a corrupted item here. So like you see like this body armor here, right? It's corrupted, which gave it like this enchantment over here. Whoops. But it can't be modified any further. So you can't like add more mods to it, for example, right? Even though it only has 4 mods for rare, right? And basically, if you use a Val Orb on something, it'll corrupt it, preventing it from being crafted any further. And it could either have no change, so it could basically be like, oh, I'm going to have all these 6 mods, none of them are going to change, but it's going to be corrupted, right? So it could do that. It could add an enchantment, which was what we had on the body armor just now. It could reroll up to half of the mods. So, like, imagine using like 3 Chaos Orbs on something simultaneously, so it could randomly, like, remove 3 of the mods and add 3 random mods on top of it, right? So it could do that as well. It can add a socket, and this can exceed the maximum number of sockets. So here we had like 2 sockets on body armor and 1 socket on regular armor, right? And like 2-handed weapons can have 2 sockets as well. It can go up to like 3 sockets on body armor basically with this. But that's also like random if you get that or not, right? And it can also modify uniques, but like it might make the unique not a unique anymore, as in it'll turn it into a rare usually, I think. And it'll remove like the unique modifiers it has, right? Which can be pretty bad. However, it could potentially add an enchantment to a unique, which is really powerful. Or it could even like, I'm not sure if it could add a socket to a unique, but it can modify uniques as well. But it has like a chance of making the unique useless, or a chance of making the unique like just corrupted without having any other change to it, right? So that's what Val Orbs do. And finally, I'd like to get into endgame crafting, right? So with endgame crafting, there's like 3 major types that I'd like to talk about. The first one being essences. So essences are a lot like transmutation orbs and regal orbs, but the way they work is you get them from basically killing monsters that are frozen in essence, and if you mouse over the monster that's like frozen in place, right, it'll say what kind of essence it has and what kind of buffs it has, right? If you click on the monster, free it, and then you had to kill it to get the essence. But you can use this essence to basically change a normal item into a magic item, but it guarantees like one type of mod, right? And I say type of mod because like one life modifier means it can pick from a variety of life modifiers, right? But usually this pool is really, really small, so it's almost like guaranteeing like what you're getting with this outcome, right? So it's very like deterministic crafting. So the basic essences are used to like craft something from normal to rare to normal to magic, kind of like a transmutation orb. And the greater essences, which you can get from like rarer monsters, I think. This is probably like harder to find in the game. These act like a regal orb, which adds a specific mod to a magic item, turning into a rare item, right? So it's kind of basically like the second step. So you can craft something, if you craft something with like a regular essence, and then you use like maybe an augmentation to add a second mod, and then you add the third mod with the greater essence, right? You can kind of like guarantee up to like 2 mods on an item, so this is very powerful. Essences come in all sorts of different types, so like you have this that adds life modifiers, you might have something that adds like cold modifiers or like mana modifiers, right? So depending on what kind of mods you're looking for in an item, you want to like find those types of essences, right? So this is going to be a really hot like commodity for trade and stuff too. The next thing is omens. So omens allow something called meta crafting, which is a Path of Exile 1 term, which basically means you're like modifying how other crafts work, right? You can get these from rituals, which is an endgame mechanic, and they come in all sorts of varieties as well. If you want like the full list, probably look up the wiki or something after the game comes out. But right now we know about a few of them. For example, this over here, if this is active, it basically makes your Exalted Orb only add prefix modifiers. So Exalted Orbs can usually add prefix and suffix, right? Those are 2 types of mods you can have. And this like basically cuts the pool that the Exalted Orb can pull from down to half, right? So you can kind of more target like exactly what you're putting onto an item. And yeah, so basically that's what the this does with an Exalted Orb. And you can only use 1 omen at a time per craft. And by per craft, I mean like every like step of the crafting process, right? So like if you're like putting one mod with an exalted item, you can only use 1 omen at this step, but you can obviously use a different omen or another omen like in the next step, right? So it's 1 omen per craft, but you know, you can use multiple during the creation of an item. The last thing is instilling. So the way instilling works is it allows you to basically allocate a notable passive to an amulet, right? So what this means is you can basically have an amulet that has, for example, in this example we have Blinding Flash allocated to it, right? Which means you'll get the bonuses of Blinding Flash as if it was allocated in passive tree without having to actually path through it. Like, so you don't have to pick up all the nodes on the way to it, and you don't have to spend the skill point to get it as well. So at minimum it's 1 free skill point. At maximum it could allow you to pick up 1 like free skill on the other side of the passive tree, right? So this can be really useful to like round off your build. The way you get these is with Distilled Emotions, which you can get from Delirium, which is another endgame mechanic, right? And depending on the combination of like the Distilled Emotions you place into this UI, it gives you a different like skill basically, right? And if you want a list of this again, the wiki will probably have an updated list once the game comes out, but you can basically place them in a certain order to get certain skills. The normal passives you get are the same as found on the passive tree. I'm not sure if there's like a few that aren't on the passive tree, but they're mostly like the ones that are on the passive tree, right? And even if you path it and pick it up, they do not stack. So you can't like pick up Blinding Flash on your passive tree and then pick it up on your amulet and have it be like doubled up, right? So keep that in mind. And yeah, that sums up all the different crafting mechanics in Path of Exile 2. Like I said, this is basically just an introduction. Hopefully this gives you information that you can use to like look up more specifics on how to use like essence crafting or something, right? Because people with more experience than me will probably be making those tutorials. I will be linking these cheat sheets in the description and also on other like social media platforms, and I'll try and update them as well. If you have any problems with like, if there's something that's incorrect on these cheat sheets, let me know in the comments and I'll try and fix it. And if you have any other like comments as well, let me know. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye bye!